just bringing everyone up to date on the adoption situation with the boys. We haven't been talking about it too much lately just because it kind of ended in not so great a fashion.
Essentially what happened was we were very serious about the foster to adopt process. We were serious about everything we'd been trained to do and how we were supposed to treat the boys. So we treated the boys from the time they moved in as if they were going to bear our last name from day one. And so everything we did was about grooming them to be a part of a family, which they hadn't been for about 3 years. And giving them a sense of permanency and helping them understand that everything they see and everything that's around them is theirs.
We wanted them to trust that what we said and that what we were going to do would come from a good place and
that we were always going to be honest with them, right? Mm-hmm. They didn't even know why they were in foster care. They didn't understand fully. We'd had so many conversations with them, and they didn't really understand what had happened. And the oldest in particular had internalized his existence in foster care as something he had done wrong. That came out much later. What ended up happening is the oldest child threw a major fit where he was destroying his property, his brother's property, our property. And I come from a very old school black family where children don't throw things around and break things around and scream and rage without getting their butt beat. And so when that happened, I called caseworkers, both theirs and our caseworkers, and I said, this child is losing it in the middle of the thing. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this situation. What am I supposed to do? We need some help over here. And so they got in touch with us, and they gave us a family preservation worker to help give us tools for how to discipline that. Because essentially what we were finding out was the foster care system wants you to take care of their children and then not do anything. Like, they want you to do what the caseworkers do. They kind of want you to be like little robots doing what the caseworkers want you to do. But they don't want you to actually get in there and parent. And what was weird is we were getting praises for how well the boys were doing academically, all the social hurdles that they were to overcome, how much more normal and at ease and at peace with themselves that they seemed, the lack of skulking, the lack of eavesdropping on conversations.
Better control of the anger.
The anger was so under control for the most part, and except for this raging episode. And you have to understand the raging episode happened right as we were getting towards the adoption date. So our assumption was he's freaking out about the adoption. I told the caseworkers, I don't think he's ready. We keep talking about this and processing through this, and he keeps trying to sabotage it. I don't know if that's just normal or if he really, really does want to put the brakes on some stuff. Because we told the boys when they moved in there were only 2 things that would make them not stay here. One would be if they didn't want to be here. If they were just, because we wanted them to know it wasn't us. That if they didn't want to be here, if they just didn't like us, if there was no chemistry, dude, it's okay. We'll still be there for you. We'll still have your bag. We'll be like aunties and uncles to you, and we'll help you get placed in that next home with peace. And the other thing was if anybody touches anybody else's private parts, like in our house, nobody's allowed to touch anybody else's private parts. Period. Your private parts are your own. No adults should be there. No other kids should be there. This is your business, period. And those were the things that we had told them. And we kind of reiterated that throughout the process. The boys had a thing where they would get up at like 3 a.m. every morning. And they blamed it on their old foster home where the lady was a corrections worker at a jail. And she would get up for her shift at 3 a.m. And so but after months and months and months, they're still getting up at 3 a.m. We don't understand what's really going down. So, and they're getting in trouble for it, like big trouble for it, and losing privileges and everything else. So finally, shortly after the I'm getting ahead of myself. The adoption date got pushed back because the caseworkers are like, let's give you a family pres worker, see what's going to happen with that. You guys get the boys in therapy.
Yeah, therapy.
And we're going to just take our time and give you guys some tools, give the boys some tools so that we don't have to worry about anybody breaking stuff up in a house again. And we're like, cool, this is awesome. But then they told us, well, we want you to tell the boys that the reason why the adoption date got moved is because the judge was busy. And we had a really strong moral problem with that. And we told them we had a problem lying to them about that. And why couldn't we just tell them, hey, we need to do some more work on our end before we're ready to be a family. And they were like, no, we just really want you to tell the boys that the judge was busy. In the state that we live in, that's impossible. Judge can't be busy. He did some research on that one.
Yeah. They get top docket priority adoption cases. So.
So that would have been a bold-faced lie. And that would stand against what we promised the kids we would do, which was never lie to them. And so we told the boys, hey, adoption's getting moved back because mom and dad need more tools, especially mom, for how to
Mm-hmm.
handle some of the stuff we're dealing with. And we really just want to make sure we're a nice, strong family with a nice, strong foundation. So a month later, the caseworkers come back and they have these monthly visits with the boys. And she comes back and she's upset. She's like, why does the oldest feel like it's his fault that the adoption fell through? And we're looking at each other like, and she's saying, well, he feels that it's very clear that it's his fault that the adoption didn't happen, which was difficult for us because he would scream whenever he would get in trouble for anything. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Like he would go on and on about how something was all his fault. So he has always internalized and had been internalizing since the day we had him in our house anytime anything went down. He kind of had this weird perfectionism thing, that he would deal with. And he really would blame himself when things didn't go well. And we told him that. And they're like, well, why didn't you tell him that the judge was busy? And we told them, well, we told you, but we weren't going to say that because we're not comfortable lying to kids. And we just told them we needed more tools.
Yeah.
That was the beginning of the end.
Yep.
Once we got him to therapy, all this stuff came out.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest had been sexually abusing his younger brother since they had been in their very first foster placement about 2.5 years ago. And in that foster home, the foster father was molesting both of the boys while they were in that home. This all came out within a month time frame.
Yeah, about a month and a half.
And Tone, one day after they got busted for being up at 3 a.m, and they were stealing toys in the house, which was really weird. Like, why do you steal from your own house? But anyway, they were stealing toys from the house and taking them back to their room at 3 a.m. Tony got into their grill and he's like, y'all, this has got to cut out. You guys have this, and this you're going to have to do later in order to make up for this incident. And the youngest said, well, Dad, I really want to talk to you and explain to you why I'm getting up so early in the morning. And he, go ahead. I guess you can.
Well, essentially everything came out and it was reaffirmed in the therapy. And
he was saying that he was getting touched every
state
single night.
Didn't seem to like the fact that we were uncovering skeletons. And
well, because of the I think what they thought is it was clear that the youngest was bonded 100%. And that the other was struggling. Once all the stuff came out, so I think what they were thinking is that we were trying to make it, that it was just too convenient. That now all of a sudden we had this thing, which was a viable reason to separate sibling groups. All of a sudden it came out that there was, sexually inappropriate stuff going on between them, which usually means you separate the siblings. And I think they thought that we were somehow trying to manipulate that situation in order to get what we wanted. Perceiving all of the things that were coming out of therapy as something we were doing. What came out in therapy is that the oldest had reactive attachment disorder, which is a condition that just basically means he's going to have a really rough time in life attaching if he ever attaches. And attachment's a big deal because that determines whether or not someone can feel compassion. So if I'm not attached to him, I can be mean and violent and cruel and verbally abusive and all those other things and feel no shame, no guilt, nothing about it because he's not a person. He's an it to me if I have an attachment issue. He's a means to an end. Part of the reason they were getting up at 3 a.m. every morning is the youngest was trying to cry out for help. And we kept saying, because I kind of had a hunch, and we kept saying, hey, if anything's going on, you guys need to share this with us. And
well, that was why the oldest was freaking out.
And that's what came out in the very last therapy sessions is that the oldest was kind of freaking out about everything because he knew that he was not welcome in our home if he was touching anybody else's private parts. And as the day got closer and closer, he realized he was crossing this line